Good morning, afternoon, and evening in case you're tuning in from somewhere in Europe. Welcome to another class, another edition of Mondays with Mendy. Today's discussion is going to center in on the topic, follow your heart. Everybody's got a heart, and everybody wants to follow what they believe is their personal path in life. Unequivocally, everybody wants to feel a sense of gratification and satisfaction from fulfilling your mission here on earth. The challenge and the difficulty that we find oftentimes is locating and feeling confident about what it is our mission here on earth is. What is it that we are uniquely qualified and designed to do, to perform here with the time that we have? And while we may have many different talents and many different opportunities, finding the one specific calling or cause that gives us a sense of identity and a sense of worth and accomplishment is very important. It's everything, because without that, we often feel like we do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but we don't necessarily get the same sense of accomplishment until we figure out what it is that we are uniquely qualified to do. With that challenge comes the difficulty, the obstacle of feeling good about our mission, feeling a sense of value for what we are uniquely designed to do. Because none of us can get everything done. Some of us are a little bit smarter. Some of us are a little bit friendlier. Some of us have greater intellect. Some have greater passion. Some of us are pragmatists. Some are doers. Some are thinkers. Some are feelers. And so when we start this exercise of figuring out what it is we are uniquely qualified to do, what is special and individual to each and every one of us, we also have to be more comfortable and come to terms with the great value there is in our specific quality. If you only undertake the exercise of figuring out what it is that's special about you and what your mission and path is, but you don't develop value and appreciation for that path and don't see how special and important it is, your specific path, and how it contributes to the greater global picture, then not only will your process not be helpful, but it will actually be detrimental. Because you'll walk away feeling that you were specifically designed for something that nobody else can do, but it's not really that meaningful in the first place. And so today's discussion will be a two-part discussion. A, we have to figure out what our specific task is. And B, even more importantly, see and appreciate the value in what each of our contribution is to this beautiful mosaic of humanity. So there's a story told about two young boys who were particularly mischievous. Could have been about me and my brother. But these two boys were called into the rabbi's office after they had done something specifically wrong, which was a normal occurrence for them. And they're in the office, and the rabbi looks at the boys, and he decides he's going to try and take a little bit of a different approach rather than simply scolding them as he usually does. So he turns to one of the boys and he says, "Son, I want you to tell me, where is God?" The kid's quiet. He's not sure how to respond, and he's waiting there. So again, the rabbi says, a little bit more sternly, he says, "I asked you a question. Please tell me, where is God?" And again, he doesn't get very much of a response. The rabbi gets a little bit irate, and he screams at the kid. He says, "Please tell me, where do you think God is?" The kid gets so nervous, he gets flustered, he jumps out of his chair, runs all the way home, and locks himself in a closet. His brother, his older brother, sees what happens, and he follows suit, goes on home, comes to the closet, finds his brother there, and he pulls his brother out of the closet. He says, "Hey, baby brother, what's going on? Why'd you run away?" He says, "Listen, apparently, from what the rabbi's telling me, God is missing, and he thinks we did it." Oftentimes, the search for meaning and the search for God can really be seen as one and the same. Because as we try to understand more of who we are and what makes us special, we also find the same journey in how we connect with our faith and our Creator. What is our go-to mode for connection? Because everybody here on earth has a different mode in how they connect with their faith, how they connect with their spirituality, whether that's more religious and an organized religion, or if it's spiritual in nature and doesn't find a specific form of expression. Everybody has different tools that they use in developing that relationship. And that's okay. As we're going to see in the Torah portion of this week, as we do every week with Mondays with Mendy, and exploring one specific detail of the Torah portion to answer everyday life dilemmas. So this week's portion talks in great detail about the construction of the temple, tabernacle, the traveling temple in the desert. The Jewish people get the Torah on Mount Sinai, the Ten Commandments. They serve a golden calf. Subsequently, God tells Moses, all right, I think you guys need a physical temple, a place on earth that you can touch and feel and smell that will allow you to feel a sense of connection to God and feel God's presence here on earth. Because you're physical creatures, you need something tangible. I know that's why you guys rushed to build that golden calf. You made a mistake. So I'm going to give you a place, a physical edifice where you can feel a greater sense of connection and revelation than anywhere else on earth. And that's why the traveling temple, the tabernacle, is built. And the Torah goes into great detail in telling us all about this beautiful tabernacle and how it was built and so on and so forth, and all of the different trappings and tapestries and materials, and of course all of the different vessels that were used in the process of creating and the service of God inside of this temple and tabernacle. And the question is asked, what was the primary function of this tabernacle? Why did it exist? And you might think that's a simple answer, but of course in Judaism there's nothing simple. Everything is a debate and an argument and a discussion. That's why our people put so much time and energy into education and questioning the status quo. And that's frankly why we develop so many lawyers. It runs in our blood. So here too there's an argument amongst the rabbis as to what the primary function is of the temple. So Maimonides and Nachmanides, two contemporaries, Maimonides of course being the famed Spanish and later Egyptian philosopher, astronomer, healer, and codifier, was quite a scholar. And he and his contemporary, Nachmanides, they both argue as to what the primary function of this tabernacle was. Nachmanides says that the temple was primarily a house for God's presence here on earth, a place where God revealed himself more than anywhere else, seen first and foremost in the Ark of the Covenant. It was a special section designated inside of the temple where nobody went except for the high priest on Yom Kippur. And that area is where the Ark of the Covenant sat, in which were the tablets, the Ten Commandments that Moses brought down the mountain. That was the most important place in the temple and tabernacle, and it highlighted the primary function of the facility, which was a place for God to reveal himself here on earth, more than anywhere else. That's Nachmanides' perspective. Maimonides takes a different perspective. He says, no, the most important function most important vessel in the temple was actually the altar. The altar, which was a place where sacrifices were brought, that was the most important space. Why? Because that was the space that allowed the Jewish people to serve and pray and feel a sense of connection to their faith, to their spirituality, to their God. So what was the primary use of the temple according to Maimonides? A house of worship, a place where people could come and feel a greater sense of connection. And that was the underlying reason for its existence. So already we see an argument between these two famed and illustrious rabbis as to whether the temple was more of a place of worship or a place of revelation. What was its primary function? But those aren't the only two options that are raised. A third option is raised that the most important feature inside of the temple was the space called the table, the shulchan, the table, which was an elaborate golden edifice where bread was placed. Fresh bread was placed every week, the shoman's bread. But what's so interesting about this bread is that it wasn't offered up to God as a sacrifice, etc. It was actually eaten by the Kohen. The priests and their families, they would eat the shoman's bread every week, which begs the question, why did it exist in the first place? Why would you bring the bread to the temple, leave it there, and then eat it? Just go ahead and eat it. What's the point? It's not accomplishing anything there. You're not burning it there. You're not cooking it there. It simply is laying there and then being eaten. So what was the purpose of this third vessel inside of the temple? And it's a very interesting analogy that's brought. It says that the bread was extremely satisfying. Very, very satisfying. So what did it represent? One of the midrashes, one of the outside commentaries on the Torah, says a very interesting thing. It says that God, we believe, provides sustenance for the entire world. Ultimately, yes, we work hard to provide for our families, but we know that many people work hard and some receive more and some receive less and so on and so forth. Ultimately, sustenance is provided for by our Creator. And each and every one of us receive the allotted amount that we need in order to survive. That idea, that analogy, was represented by having the bread there inside of the temple. The temple is a house of worship. It's a place of godly revelation, as we said. So therefore, some sort of food had to be represented there just to highlight the fact that all food here on earth, all sustenance here on earth, ultimately can be attributed back to Hashem. And that's why it existed, simply to highlight that important fact. So therefore the bread was brought, it sat there, people would know that the bread was there, creating this connection between our food here on earth and our faith. And then the bread was eaten by the Kohen, by the priest. So therefore, now we have three primary vessels. We have an Ark of Covenant, we have a temple of sacrifice, and we have a table for the bread. And each one serves a different priority in the temple's existence. The Ark represents God's revelation there in the temple. The altar represents the sacrifices and the place of worship for the Jewish people. And the shulchan, the table, and the shoman's bread represent God's relationship in a physical way with earth, in helping every individual continue to live with the amount of sustenance they need to survive. Three vessels, three different reasons and functions for the temple's existence. Now, a person here on earth is oftentimes searching to understand how they fit. What is their mission? What is their unique path? And how do they accomplish that task here on earth? So when you look to Ethics of Our Fathers, which is a wonderful book, a compilation of adages and proverbs and sayings by the sages on how a person should live a life as morally and ethically as possible. So in Ethics of Our Fathers, in chapter 1, it says, the second verse, Rabbi Shimon the Righteous would say, the world stands and survives on three things. Number 1, the study of Torah. Number 2, service, faith to God. And number 3, the performance of good deeds, acts of goodness and kindness. Those are the three departments, the three facets to a moral and ethical society, three points of human existence that allow the earth to continue to operate as it does in a positive and productive manner. You have to have all three. Indeed, every human being has to have all three in their life. They have to have some study, they have to have some service, some worship, prayer, connection, so on and so forth, and they have to have the performance of good deeds. You have to have all different kinds, each and every person, to make you a balanced and wholesome individual. But also, it exists three different type of people. There are people that specialize and cater to each and every one of those individual character types. There are people that are more cerebral. They're philosophical, they're intellectual, and the way that they connect most with their faith, the way they produce most here on earth is through the world of thought, through study, through intellectualization, through philosophy, and through the constant exploring of new ideas. That is how they contribute here on earth. That is how they provide and how they fill their mission and task here on earth, and how they connect with their faith through the study of Torah and the constant exploration of Jewish life and Jewish philosophy. That is how they connect. Those are the Jews that connect most with the Ark of the Covenant. They represent that part of the temple. Then you have a second group of people that are very passionate, warm and kind and giving, people whose heart is worn on their sleeve. They connect most to God through prayer, through service, through worship, through constant communication. That is how they find their connection to God, and that is how they achieve their task here on earth. Through spiritual exploration, not necessarily through study, but through experience, through love and kindness to one another. That is how they share their passion here on earth, and they are reflected in the temple through the existence of the altar, as we said previously. Then you have a third group. The third group are people who don't necessarily study the most. They aren't that cerebral. They don't necessarily pray that much. They're not that passionate. They connect to God through their points of kindness, through their acts of goodness that they perform on a regular basis, every day, every moment. That is how they find their greatest sense of connection. And they are expressed in the showman's bread that sat on the table in the temple. Because to them, they achieve more connection. They achieve more spirituality, not through study or even through worship, even through prayer, but rather through helping another person, giving them food to eat, clothes to wear, helping them cross the street, helping them find a job. Whatever way, shape, or form they could provide assistance to another human being, they are there to do it. There's a common saying that Hasidic Jews would say that another person's physical needs is your spiritual pursuit. For them, it's all about the physical. They need food to eat. But when you go and provide that food for them, that is a spiritual calling. That is you finding connection to your faith, to your Creator, by providing for their physical needs. So their physical needs is your spiritual calling. These are three different kinds of people with three different specialties and therefore three different priorities in life. Each one essentially valuable, each one contributing to our society in equal measure. Because the next question you might ask is, well, which one is more important? You can't do all of them. You can't specialize and prioritize in everything. So what is it? Should I be spending more time studying? That's important. If I don't know, knowledge is power. If I don't know more about my religion, about my faith, how can I continue to practice? How can I teach my children? If I'm not constantly exploring new ideas in society, how will I contribute? How will I advance the human condition? Some might argue and say, no, it's not about the cerebral. It's all about your heart and the warmth that you have and your passion and your sense of connection with your faith. And that comes through prayer. You have to spend more time praying, because when you pray, you remove yourself from society. You remove yourself from the wheeling and dealing and the rat race that exists, constantly pushing you just to survival of the fittest. You got to pray. Now, when you pray, you can allow society to become more than just the dollar amount that they make and they earn. So there's nothing more important than prayer and passion and warmth and energy. That's the most important thing. Your feelings, your chemistry, nothing is more important than that. Others argue that it's not so important about what you think. It's not even so important about what you feel towards another person. It's about what you do that matters most. Action counts, right? Action speaks louder than words, they say. Deeds matter, or as Nike coined the phrase, just do it. Why has that been such a successful slogan for so long? Because ours is a world of action. I don't care what you think. I don't care what you feel. I care about what you do. And maybe that's the most important part of our contribution to society. That's where I need to put all my time and energy. This is the question we ask ourselves constantly. Where do I need to prioritize? So, of course, all of the different traditions are important. And we have to try to perform all of them. And we have to try to perfect our thought, our speech, our action, all of it. We have to study, and we have to pray, and we have to perform. We have to do everything. But the reality is that we each have a specific tendency. We do. If you were to stop for a moment and clear your mind, stop thinking about your family, stop thinking about your job, stop thinking about everything that exists in your life, and to concentrate and focus on yourself. And think about your strengths, your weaknesses, without any external pressure whatsoever. You would naturally start to come to certain realizations. You're smart. You're not funny. Right? Or you might come to the realization that you're warm. You're a friendly person. But you're not a big ideas kind of guy. Or you might come to the realization that, you know what, you don't always come up with the best ideas, and you're not always the warmest guy in the girl in the room, but you are pragmatic. When people need something done, they bring it to you, and you're the lady that gets it done. That's a realization that you can come to when you block out every external pressure in the world around you, both those that are close, your wife, your kids, and those that are distant, even your job, all of that. You block it all out and you focus. You contemplate, what is it that I am uniquely qualified to do? If I could do anything here on earth, if I could be anyone, what are the qualities that I have most? You start there. And then you recognize and realize how those qualities are invaluable, because they will fit into one of three categories. They will fit into the category of study, of mind, right? The arc category. Or they will fit into the heart category, the passion category, the warmth category, the chemistry category, the category at the altar. Or you'll find that neither one of those are you. You are the action person, the one that gets it done, the one that goes out and helps people regardless of what you think or feel. You're out there doing good deeds. That's who you are. You're the bread and table category. So when you start to come to that realization and you start to feel a sense of, all right, this is what I'm good at, don't take the next step and question whether that's enough. Because that's a mistake that we make. We start to say, okay, here's something I'm good at, but is it enough? Maybe I need to spend my time compensating for this natural tendency and working in a different quadrant. If I'm good at mind, maybe I need to spend more time in heart. Or if I'm good at heart, maybe I need to spend more time in action and deed. No. You have to have all three. But if you recognize the priority that's been given to you, the special quality that's been given to you, that's where you need to put your time and energy. That is your calling. That is your mission. That is your path in life. Following your path requires confidence and conviction that this is the way God made you, and God made you that way for a reason. Because this is where you will accomplish the most here on earth. So don't look at your neighbor next door and say, you know, I wish I was as thoughtful as them. Or I wish I was as kind, as generous as they are. I wish I was as passionate, as warm, and as friendly as they are. Or I wish I was as pragmatic. I wish I got things done like they did. No, you got to forget about all that. You got to think about who you are. What makes you passionate? What makes you productive? is unique to you. And once you figure it out, run with it. Because without all these three qualities, without people performing these three different departments to their fullest, we as a society will not get to where we want to go. We will not perfect life here on earth. We will not complete Tikkun Olam until each and every one of us feel comfortable being proud of what makes us special and unique. And once we get to that point, then we can all join arms, hand in hand with our fellow, each recognizing our special potential, what we contribute to this beautiful mosaic, and understanding how our friends and our family contribute in their own special ways. And together, we can move society forward to where it needs to be. So if you want to find your path, you got to listen. Listen to what yourself is telling you. And then be proud of what you come to, be proud of the conclusion that you come to, and live your life according to it. And you will find the greatest sense of satisfaction and gratification when you do. As always, feel free to email me with any and all questions. Our email address is askmendy, ASKMENDY, @gmail.com. I want to thank you for tuning in. Next Monday, we will talk about the sweet smell of struggle. Why there's so much to be achieved when we overcome our struggles. Why you should never give up, no matter how hard they may seem. To get information on all of our upcoming events, such as our Super Bowl party for young professionals this Sunday night, as well as our lecture on Jerusalem and the struggle over the city next Tuesday at 12 o'clock, downtown Tampa. And Tuesday night next week, we'll start our next JLI course, Being Jew in a Modern Era. That's next Tuesday night. All the information can be found on our website at www.chabadsouthampa.com. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day.